students, I am Ishan Trivedi. Welcome you in the video lecture series. Today I am going to discuss about Introduction to Urban Transportation and Role and the History of Transportation. In this session, I am going to cover basic introduction to transportation engineering, traffic engineering and urban transportation. Whereas the separate theory of history and role of transportation. So let us start with the transportation engineering. Transportation engineering is defined as an application of technological and scientific principles to the planning, functional design, operation and management of various facilities for any mode of transportation. Here the modes of transportation are road, rail, sea and air. So there are varieties of transportation at city level, regional level and national level. Now, why do we provide this transportation engineering? It is just for the safe, rapid, comfortable, convenience, economically and environmentally compatible movement of people and the goods. Now, for traffic engineering, it is the science of measuring the traffic and travel. This study is basically related to laws of traffic flows and generation. The application of this knowledge, the professional practices of planning, designing and operating the traffic system to achieve safe and efficient movement of persons and goods. Now, when I am talking about a transportation engineering, the urban transport is a complex system involving various modes of transportation. In the urban area, this variety starts with the local transport, intermediate public transport and the private transport. The volume and the nature of demand for the urban transportations are derived from overall pattern of socio-economic activities and their interactions within the area. Here, this means that one is working, so the activity is what? Activity is from home to that working place, that is the activity. If I am going for a leisure, then that is my activity. It can be socio-economical or cultural activity, or it can be of any activity which is related to our day-to-day life. Now, urban transport shapes the growth pattern of a town, or you can say urban development and the vice versa. Means the urban transport shape the any growth pattern of a town, or you can say that the town is going to shape the urban transportation. The urban transportation has emerged as one of the most important component of the economy. As the city develops, it generates lot of employment within the area. People from the rural area and the small town come to the center place and the migration has taken place. This migration will ultimately contribute their work and their skill in the market, or you can say labor market, and ultimately directly or indirectly they are giving some contribution to the economical development of a particular region, and which ultimately leads to the development of a nation. If it is inefficient, then what would happen? If the urban transportation is not contributing to the city life, then there are negative impacts to the competitiveness of the economy and the adversely affecting the labor market, and by increasing the commuting time for the goods and the passengers. As the transportation is not efficient to feed the labor market, and ultimately people try to commute more from workplace to their job places, and ultimately the travel time would increases. There are ample of reasons which are contributing in the increase in the travel time. So this can be a delay in a signal and the traffic. This can be of not proper maintaining the land use planning. So there are many reasons to study. Furthermore, The urban transport sector can be divided in four basic elements. These are mode of transport, or you can say public or the private transport, then transportation infrastructure, it can be urban roads. Even in urban road, there are varieties of classification: arterial, subarterial, collector, and the local streets. Then transport service providers, which are the institutions, planning, designing, finance, implementation, and enforcement. And at last, there is a transport management. Now, the general aim of this course on urban transportation planning is to impart knowledge on various stages. First, we need to understand the mobility pattern in the urban areas. These are related to land use plan of a town. There is a relation between land use and transportation. Once we capture the mobility pattern of the city dwellers, we can easily provide a good urban transportation system, and that is what we are planning here. Second is to understand the factors which are influencing the level of mobility in the urban areas. The factors, particularly the casual factors that influence the mobility pattern in the urban areas. Why the people are moving for their day-to-day activities, morning time activities, night time activities, daytime activities, and the evening time activities as well. So based on the time duration, their activity will be differ, and that so the casual factors which are influencing for the mobility pattern. Now, third is to develop the relationship between the level of mobility and the casual factors which are responsible for the mobility. Fourth is to understand this relationship to predict the future mobility. Now, once I predict that people would travel and the amount of people who are traveling from one place to another place, now I will forecast that in future if the demand of that particular area will increase, now how many people will travel on that particular road or particular route. Clear? So that pattern will be studied and future projections will be done. Fifth and the final one is the use of predicted mobility pattern to understand the future requirement of transportation infrastructure to meet the future demand for the transportation. So here in various stages we have to study the mobility pattern, we have to study the relationship between the activities and the mobility pattern, then we'll do the futuristic prediction based on the recent trend, and then we will provide the infrastructure facility which require for the urban transportation. The basic purpose of the transportation is to provide efficient access to various activities that satisfy the human needs, and that is what we call the casual factors for the mobility. And therefore the general goal of the transportation planning is to accommodate these needs for the mobility. The main purpose of this transportation planning is to match the transportation supply with the travel demand, which represents a need for the travel. A thorough understanding of existing travel pattern is necessary for the identifying and analyzing the existing traffic related problems. So what we have to do? We have to first capture the existing travel pattern, why people commute, at which mode they are taking, whether they are taking the private, the intermediate public transport and public transport. So that all these studies need to be captured, and then we have to predict for the future, and then we'll develop the transportation planning on that particular stretch or the route. Detailed data on current travel pattern and traffic volumes are also needed for the developing the travel forecasting and prediction models. This will be discussed in the later session. So these are the models which are useful for the forecasting of any travel demand. The prediction of future travel demand is an essential task of the long-range transportation planning process for determining the strategies accommodating the future needs. These strategies may include land use policies, pricing programs, and expansion of transportation supplies in the highways and transit services. So these are the transportation planning in this context. Now understand the development and the history of transportation. With the early urbanization, the pedestrian and the animals drawn traffic was increasing in the central areas of the town, or you can say the main core city part of the town. Though at that time the streets were unpaved and the sidewalks were narrow. So there was no enough space for the pedestrian to walk and the cart, or you can say horseshoe cart, to move. So when the demand has increased, there is some brief history of the development of urban transportation in all over the world. So first horse-drawn coaches for the public carriage were introduced in 1819 in Paris and in 1827 in New York City. After the demand has increased in the London, they have introduced a suburban railway in 1838, which was introduced after the public transport service required in 1832. In 1868, elevated rapid transit were introduced in New York City. After this gasoline running system, these things were on trend, and in 1905 the motor bus in New York City were introduced. As the development has come up, the first electronic train in Mumbai were established in 1925. It was between Which station to Kurla. Afterwards, if I'm talking about the Indian scenario, then the Kolkata metro were introduced in 1984. At later stage, in 1997, the elevated rapid transit was introduced in Chennai, and at last, in 2002, Delhi Metro was established to cater the demand of that city. So these are the history of urban transportation in global as well as in India. Now understand the role, or you can say function, of transportation. Transportation, it deals with the movement of people and the goods from one place to another and has contributed a lot in the advancement of civilization. Even it is one of the key factors for the development of any urban area. This includes the technological progress and the development of nation as well. The efficient transportation results in the economical, social and political advantage. The role of the transportation can be stated in three levels. This section conveys an understanding of importance of transportation in the modern society by presenting the selected characteristics of existing transportation system, their uses, relationships to other human activities. The efficient transportation results in the economical, social and political advantages at various levels. These levels are national level, regional level and urban level. First is economic functions. There are ample of factors which are responsible for the economic growth of a town, region and the nation. First is raw material. Raw materials are transported to one point of processing and the consumption for proper utilization. If I am talking about timber, timber will be cut and that raw material will be transferred to the urban or the particular region, and the upcoming process will be done based on the requirement. So from its processing to consumptive use, it will be required for the development of any region. Next is relating the population to land use. Transportation relates the population to land use by moving people and goods from one place to another based on their activities. Third is the regional specialization. See, every region has their own individuality and the special things, or you can say the city has developed based on its own speciality, and transportation makes this region specialized by supplying of specialized skill, equipment, raw material and distributions of finished goods. Next is decentralization. As the industries are encouraged to move away from the traditional city center to escape from high taxes and labor costs, the congestion in order to communities reduces. So what will happen? As the industries are going outside of the city area, the people will tend to move near to the industrial area and the decentralization will happen. Next is timely supply of material. Various modes of transportations ensure timely supply of fresh fruits and vegetables or milk, newspapers, magazine, etc., which are susceptible to time element for their sell value. Certain things which we require in our daily life, that needs are fitted by the transportation only, and this infrastructure has to be made in a such a way that from grassroots level to the consumer it should be distributed. Next is production. Efficiency and sufficiency of transportation lowers the cost of production and reduces the selling price. Due to the lower prices, the demand increases and more production is required. Next is power and energy. For developing power and energy, we require coal, gas, fossil fuel, oil, which must be transported from long distance, or you can say we have to sometimes import those things in mass quantities. And these things will be done by the transportation only. If we have the efficient transportation, then we can increase the power generation. Then even distribution of commodities. Good transport facilities helps in the evenly distribution of commodities among all parts of the world. Due to the adequate transportation, people are able to enjoy those commodities which are not produced in the country. Now the agriculture. See, before and after showing and after the stage of harvesting, the transportation plays significant role in the agriculture industry. See, once all those things were manured and the fertilizers, these things require a transportation and reach to the farmer at every corner of the region, or you can say at nation. So this will be done by the transportation. So the agricultural product will be sent to different markets by means of trucks and railways. Next is increase in the employment. Various companies like motor manufacturer, locomotive, aircraft factories, shipyard companies employ millions of workers and thus they increase the employment. Even directly or indirectly, many people who are associated with this transport network, they are key generator for the employment. So these are the economic factors which are responsible at national, regional and city level. Next is social functions. As the things are easy to available and the goods and services are also available near the vicinity, then ultimately it leads towards the increasing of the living standards of people. People have been brought together and feeling of isolation is being destroyed by the transportation. Life has become more enjoyable and comfortable by means of transportation as the things were brings at the door. Transportation has developed the population centers. It has changed the customs and patterns of human life. It has promoted the culture and intelligence and has made the immigration possible. Distributions of mails, newspaper, etc. has brought people of different region in close contact and promoted the mutual understanding. Transportation has made it easier to reach the places of religious importance. Now, the political functions. Transportation has developed a sense of a nation unity among the people. It has united the people of different caste, religion, custom, and traditions. Center administration has become more easy and effective. Different religions of the country are made economically interdependent. So those who are not capable to produce certain things, they will do certain trades and treaty between two nations, and thus they can develop their own country. So more or less they are depending on the parent country of the other nation, and thus they try to financially sustain, and that's why the interdependency has become easier because of transportation. The transportation helps in the better law and order in the country. Transportation helps in mobilizing the troops and war machines quickly off during the emergencies. So these are the roles or functions of transportation at various levels and various functions. I'm ending this session. I hope you have learned the introduction of urban transportation, role and the history of transportation as well. Thanks for watching this video.